Hello and welcome to episode number 249 of the Launch Lounge podcast. In today's episode, you'll discover exactly when to trust your gut and when to dig into the data when making important business decisions. You'll walk away with a practical framework for making faster, more confident decisions without getting stuck in paralysis analysis. So stay tuned. Hello and welcome. Lovely to be in your ears today and to hang out with you. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Back in 2022, I made a giant decision, sort of an impulsive decision, but it was a feeling that I had in my gut. It was a gut decision. And I felt strongly about it. And as soon as I made the decision, I felt, wow, this decision is going to free me up. It is going to take the shackles off of my feet. It's going to give me business freedom. It's going to make me feel better when I come to work every day. It's going to make me feel lighter and just bring a better energy to my business, right? So I made this gut decision. And at the time, I thought I made the right decision because I felt like it was the right decision for me at the time. This decision that I made was to pause the podcast. At that stage, I had 174 episodes in the bank. I had a large following here on the podcast. It was called The Shine Show back then. Now it's called The Launch Lounge. But I had 174 episodes of The Shine Show. And the podcast was growing, but I was exhausted. And I didn't realize that I was exhausted from a whole bunch of other things. And sometimes, that's how it is in business. You're burnt out. You're cooked. You're just cooked, right? You've been doing it for too long. You haven't had proper holidays. You're at the end of a 2-year high from COVID because everybody wanted Facebook ads as soon as COVID started, and you rode that roller coaster, right? I was cooked. I was so exhausted. And I didn't realize that it was other things that was cooking me. It was other things that was making me feel so exhausted. I just knew that I got to Friday. We used to release the podcast episode on a Thursday, and I would get to Thursday afternoon and sometimes even Friday morning, and I still hadn't recorded the episode for that week. And so it ended up being this late afternoon, early morning hustle to get the episode out every single week after week after week after week. I was just catching up, playing catch up. And then once I'd done the episode, I'd promise I'm going to get my act together and I'm going to be more organized and I'm going to batch the episodes and I'm going to get ahead of it and I'm not going to do it last minute next week. And then Thursday afternoon rolls around and I haven't recorded an episode yet. It wasn't good for my self-esteem, wasn't good for my integrity. It wasn't good for my feelings of shame, feelings of disappointing myself. And if you, like me, or someone who has ADHD and you're a master of masking, and you've been trained from a very young age to pretend you're perfect and to pretend you're a really good student and are really good at everything that you're expected to be good at, you will know how deep that shame cuts when you know you're pretending to be perfect, but on the inside, you're beating yourself up every day because you know that you're messing up and you're not doing it well. And so I trusted my gut. My feelings were telling me I needed a break from the podcast. What I really think is I needed a break from the business. I need a break from some other stuff. I was tired. And And I just wasn't loving the podcast anymore, mostly because of the shame I felt around last minute episodes. And let me tell you, those feelings are so real and they are so valid in the moment. I will never ever say those feelings were wrong. They were not wrong, they were misplaced. They blamed the burnout on the wrong thing. And they looked for the solution for burnout in the wrong place. But here's where I completely missed. Here's the thing that I missed is by making that decision from pure emotion, I missed the opportunity to look at the data and make a data-driven decision, make a data-informed decision that would steer my business in the correct direction or continue to steer the business in the correct direction and thereby give me the space to figure out what the other thing is that I can do less of, or what the restructuring of my time is that is required in order for me to feel better. Our podcast downloads were growing, our email list was engaged, launch numbers were strong because our audience was warm, they were loving the show. And when I hit pause on the podcast, well, let's just say my audience got colder than a swimming pool in winter. And if you've been around for a while, you know I don't love cold water. You know this girl doesn't do cold. You know I go swimming, but I need it to be Brisbane temperatures, right? Our email promos started performing worse and worse. Our launches got smaller and smaller. And for the longest time, I couldn't figure out. I was like, is it the market? Is it a glitch in my email system? Is it because people don't want Facebook ads anymore? Like, what was going on? I couldn't figure out why I was hustling my face off in every other area. And I couldn't figure out why it was literally just like my audience was dying a very slow death right in front of my face. That's a horrible analogy. I apologize. But that's what it felt like. And that's what it looked like from the outside. And I had no logical explanation for it. And it wasn't until I looked at the actual data that I realized by letting my temporary emotional state drive a core business decision, I'd disrupted the very engine that was keeping my audience warm and engaged. This experience was expensive. And this experience taught me something crucial about when to trust your gut and when to trust your data. And that's exactly what I want to share with you today. So we have to understand the difference between business data and business feelings so that we know when to pay attention to which one. I'm going to say this because I want you to be really clear that I'm not creating an either or dichotomy here. I'm not saying you have to only pay attention to data. I'm also not saying only trust your gut, only trust your intuition. Because when you think about big mistakes you've made, I think you'll see that a lot of those mistakes were made in a moment of, I'm just going to trust my gut on this. Our gut always gives us what it knows best. But sometimes what our gut knows best is not the best. And sometimes we have to override our gut in order to make decisions that will be good for our business, in order to make decisions that's going to help us move this giant Boeing that we're, flying, which is your business, in the right direction so that you can step away, so that you can put it in autopilot and take a break and go and do something else, or relax or rest or take a holiday, or do something else um, that is still going to steer your business in the right direction. So, how do we recognize when we're making decisions from emotion versus when we're making decisions from strategy? I thought about that question, and the answer to that question is you don't. You don't really know ever very clearly when to make decisions purely from the data and when to make them from your gut. There's an in between there. What I will say that's going to guide you is check in with your gut and ask yourself, is my gut currently coming from a place of ego, or is it coming from a place of love? Here's an example for you. I can very honestly say that a lot of the times I have made a decision to cut back on social media, or cut back on posting. It's probably most related to social media. That has been an ego decision. That has been a coming from a place of, oh, I'm so tired of posting and not seeing any return, or I don't want to make myself feel vulnerable, or I don't want to share my life. Those are all ego things, right? Because those are kind of like objections that we have to using social media, but they come from an ego place, because nothing we share on social media can affect us. It literally cannot harm you. There is no harm that can come to you from having a box in your hand where you transmit a video or a post that people on the other side of their little box in their hand is going to see. Sure, people can leave mean comments. But again, it's someone somewhere that you don't know what kind of day they're having. You don't even know if you're interpreting it correctly. And you know what? Maybe they're just mean. They don't have to mean anything to us, right? What I do know for sure is if I ask myself, is this coming from an ego place or is this coming from a love place? Then I can start to differentiate. Then I can give my gut the right attention that it needs in order to take care of myself so that I can then look at the data and make the right decision. I also won't make a decision from my gut if I have not checked the data properly. So if I feel something in my gut, I need to cut this thing off, or I need to stop doing this thing, or I need to do more of that thing very quickly and very impulsively. So these are usually gut decisions are usually impulsive. For me at least. I don't know about you. If I haven't verified that feeling with data, and I can't somehow say, yes, look, the data shows that this is justified, then I have to hold back on trusting my gut, right? So I've got to verify it. It's like that old saying, what does it say? Trust but verify, right? There's an emotional danger zone when you allow your gut to drive your business. There's an emotional danger zone when you give your business that much power over your emotions. And I know that in the beginning, when we start our businesses, it's all emotion. Goodness me, I know that so well. It's all emotion. And this is our baby. And if you've worked as hard as I have, and you've pulled the all-nighters and you've shown up to work at 8 p.m. and until midnight, and you've gotten up at 2 a.m. for that mastermind that you're in that's in another country, and that's the only time they can do it. And you've traveled overseas, and when you've paid the price, it is emotional. Of course it's emotional. But it's also an organism. It's also a system. It's also a body outside of your body. You're building something that has to be repeatable and replicable by other people so that it can become something greater than you and so that it can serve more people. And there's very little ego in that. When you start thinking of your business as an organism or an entity where you're literally every day just creating something that you can hand off to someone else. So that helps. I hope that helps you as well. A couple of things that you should always check the data first. And then you can allow your ego or your emotion to have an opinion about it, but rarely let your gut make any decisions about marketing. Sure, follow your creativity. Sure, follow your instinct about where your audience is going to be or where you're going to uncover a pocket of your ideal customers, right? But when it comes to big marketing decisions, like should I stop podcasting? Should I stop emailing? Should I stop showing up on social? Should I not be on this platform, but just on that one? Do not let your gut make any decisions. Financial decisions. Be very careful to make emotional financial decisions. Sometimes it helps me to pretend I'm my accountant. Because when I'm making the financial decisions, there's always emotion in it. There's emotional baggage in it, but there's also emotional softness, I want to say. And softness and finances, I know softness is not the right word. I need to think about a different word, but approaching finances with a bendable, malleable, flexible mindset around how much there is, how much is coming in, and how much is going out is a recipe for disaster. And that's how I live my life very much. I am malleable. I am flexible. I am bendable. I am, I see a squirrel and I chase that squirrel every 5 minutes. It's a different one. That doesn't work really well for finances. So it helps me to literally pretend I'm putting my accountant hat on, pretend I'm putting my accountant clothes on, and talk to myself as if I am my accountant. And my accountant sees money as black and white. My accountant is not emotional about my finances. My accountant just sees a profit and loss sheet and says, this is very black and white. So if it helps you to literally put another hat on, put some clothes on, put a tie on, put some glasses on, do something so that you can pretend to be the accountant and make some decisions that are data driven when you look at your finances. If you're a successful course creator, coach, or online expert who's ready to stop being the bottleneck in your own growth, listen up. We're currently accepting applications for 2 spots in our Meta Ads agency. What makes us different? We're not just your ads team. We're your growth partners who help you navigate the whole picture: your funnel strategy, your customer journey, and your scaling roadmap. We dive deep into your data to make sure every marketing dollar works harder for you. If you're doing at least $10,000 per month in revenue, have a proven offer that converts,
and you're ready to invest at least $3,000 a month in ads to scale strategically, we'd love to talk. We only have 2 spots available, and they will go fast. This is for you if you want expert guidance and proven strategies that deliver predictable results. Go to thelaunchlounge.com/agency to apply now.
Then there's things like strategic planning, like your forward planning for the year. Now, there I will say, definitely, when you're planning your year, ask yourself first and foremost, what am I going to have the most fun doing the most often? Definitely. But then when you sit and you fill it in the calendar, you're going to need data because you're going to overshoot. You're going to overcommit. And you need to have a look at how much work did you do in that last launch? How many people came in? How much list building did you do? How long did it take to build your list to that size? How many people came to that webinar and how long did it take you to do that? And then you're going to have to be very realistic about blocking things off in your calendar. So when you're looking at the numbers that give you direction in the business, any numbers that show you where people are coming from, how they're engaging with you, how they're opening your emails, reading your emails, engaging with your emails, opening your, being part of your launch, being part of your sales process, being part of your paying students, your clients or your coaching students. If they're in your paid community, how well are they ascending? How many of your products are they buying? Those are the sort of things that you should be careful to trust your gut on. Now, when should you trust your gut in your business? Because there are some areas in your business that gut overrides everything. Emotion overrides everything, right? When you're making team decisions based on hiring, when you're hiring people, that's when you trust your gut. Now, again, it's one of those things, trust but verify. Never hire someone just based on a feeling, but be very clear about your values. Be very clear about the work ethic that you expect. Because believe it or not, work ethic is a feeling. Work ethic is that energy that someone brings to the table. It's not what we think it is, how many hours someone sits behind their computer. It's not that. When someone has a great work ethic, you know they're engaged. You know they're present. You know their head is fully in the game. You know they can't wait to hear from you. You know they can't wait to offer value to you and to your students or your coaching clients or your customers. You know that. You don't have to see them sitting behind their computer 24/7 because you know it. You can see the fruits of engagement. So be very clear on the feelings you want to get from someone when you're hiring them. Be very clear on the values you have in your business that drives positive working relationships. One of my core values in my business is be engaged. And it took me a while to learn that the mindset, the framework, the thing that I was looking for, the emotion that I was looking for in people is engagement. But once I had that word, be engaged, and we sometimes we reframe that as have each other's backs. Have each other's backs. It means you know about that email that came in, that hard to swallow email, or that email that is a shocker, or you know about it, you're on top of it, or you know about something that was a mistake and you take responsibility for it. We have a lot of positive feelings in my business, in my team, in everybody that I work with, because we are engaged. And that is a gut feeling. I have a gut feeling about someone when I meet them, when I interview them, about whether or not they're going to create positive feelings for me. When you're setting your long term vision, when you're thinking about your life that you want to create, when you think about what your business allows you to get or the life that your business allows you to live, trust your gut on that. This is an interesting one for me because I have always had a hard time with long-term planning. Well, heck, I have a hard time with short-term planning as well, if I'm being honest. No, I have a I when people ask me what do you want, it's a really challenging question for me because sure, I want tons of money, but be more specific. Nah, it's not specific. It's very vague. Sure, I want a house by the beach. Everybody wants a house by the beach, you know? Sure, I want to travel loads, but do I want to travel right now? No, not necessarily. It's always hard for me to answer that question. And it wasn't until recently in a therapy session that I worked it out and I realized, oh, it's another one of my little ADHD things. The reason I don't know what I want is because of what I really want, what really makes me happy, what really gives me dopamine hits, what really fulfills my soul so much is to do what I want when I want. That's what I want. That's not a house by the beach. I can be in a house by the beach and be very stressed because I'm not doing something I really want to be doing right now. And sometimes that manifests in work. Sometimes it manifests in creating a brand new course for my students because I have the urge to do it. And I will spend weeks, literally weeks, going down one rabbit hole because that's the thing I'm obsessed with at the moment. And other times, the thing that I want is again impulsive. I want most of the time it kind of sometimes it hits me on a Saturday morning when I have to get up early to do all the kids sports activities and extracurricular stuff and run errands and groceries and all that. I hate that stuff because all I want is to lie in bed and stay there until I don't want to be there anymore. It's this The dopamine comes from a combination of spontaneity, following whatever the current hyper focus is, and decompressing until it is done. Literally, I sometimes I want to be by myself with no stimulation, no sensory input for hours. And if you ask me how long I'm going to stay there, it completely interrupts my process and I start again and I have to stay there until I'm done. And there's a giant impulsivity about that. But it hit me like a ton of bricks because my brain doesn't work like people who can plan and organize and dream about houses by the beach. I can, I've had so many moments sitting on a beach where I just want to go to work because I was in the middle of some hyper focus. And then I have other moments where I just want to be left alone. And it all has everything to do with following the hyper focus until the dopamine pays off. And then relaxing and decompressing until the dopamine pays off. And I love that I had that discovery because it was a giant aha moment for me, and it's helping me recalibrate everything in my business. It's helping me understand how to really create the setup, the structure, the what the architect does, that bit, the architecture of my business. so that I can create space where I can follow the rabbit holes and have this absolute genius creative burst of energy where I create new things and see the big picture and see the patterns and communicate a new thing, give birth to something new that serves my students and that serves the world and that makes an impact. And then when I'm tired, I need to decompress. And I cannot decompress for, 7 to 10 days in Bali on the beach. Doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. I've got to decompress until I'm done. And then I'm done. And then I'm back. So I trust my gut. I trust my intuition. I trust my feelings when I'm sitting down and I'm thinking about long-term things, like how do I want the next 5 years to feel? How do I want to create space so that I can live my life in a way that feels like that kid who was happy, that those moments when you were a kid, when you were just busy doing the thing you loved and you didn't know that you're doing a thing you loved because you were just happy. Like that's what I'm chasing, and that's my long-term vision, and that's my long-term planning. And there's very little goal setting involved in that, I'll tell you that. The other place where I really trust my gut is when something feels ethically off. Something feels ethically off. Now, I'm going to say something about our beautiful industry. Sometimes some things in our industry, marketing, online marketing, social media, digital marketing, AI, all of these things in technology that we work in, and all of these things in sales, and all of these things in marketing that we work in, sometimes things in our industry feels off because they are off. And then there's a thing that you have to go through where you figure out, is this an offness that I can live with? Or is this an offness that I don't want to be anywhere near, or I don't want to have a part in it? Or is this an offness that is off because of the execution? And if it's executed differently, it might not be off. I'll tell you a story. I was part of a promotion at some point. I'm not going to be specific because I don't want to give this away. I don't want to embarrass someone. I was part of a promotion. I was approached to be a guest speaker at an event. And this was an online event. It's like one of these online summits. And there was a big natural disaster while we were in the middle of this summit. And the person who was organizing the summit started to use donations to this natural disaster, to the people impacted by the natural disaster, as a way to motivate people in the summit to make sales. So the more sales everybody makes, the bigger the donation to this natural disaster would be. And I remember reading it, and of course it was a spontaneous decision by the organizer. But I remember reading the first email about it, and it was, of course, it was all framed as, wow, how lucky are we? We get to be safe. This is going on right now, and it's so crazy. I'm going to donate X amount of dollars for whatever comes in this promotion. I'm going to donate a certain amount of it to this relief organization, relief for this disaster. And that was lovely. Great. Awesome. Fantastic. Give away a portion of what you're making. But then it becomes, come on, guys, do more. Remember, the more you do, the more I donate. And then it became, come on, tell your audience that the more they buy, the more I donate. And the message subtly kept creeping up and creeping up and creeping up to the point where it was literally do more by Friday because then I can give more. And I remember sitting there going, something about this just really doesn't sit well with me. Something about this is, and it's, it's one of those things when you're kind of busy. So this little voice in your head pops up and you instantly push it down because you're kind of busy, and you don't have time to think about this little voice that just popped up into your head, and you keep living and you keep doing your thing, and then you see the next email and the voice pops up and you squish it because you're busy, and it's not a big giant red flag. It actually sounds quite like humanitarian. It actually sounds really nice. And by the time we got to the end of this promotion, I couldn't ignore this feeling anymore. And I had to kind of sit down and go, because this is the tricky bit with this, is it's disguised as a good deed. Someone's going to give money to this relief program for these people who are suffering. That's fantastic. However, manipulating your audience to buy something that they don't want by linking it to your donation to people who are suffering puts an emotional and a mental and it puts a burden on the audience, saying they are in control of how much money you donate. And it means they end up buying something because they feel guilty. They end up buying something because they are literally guilted into it through your act of kindness. So how about we try this one on? Let's try this on. You make money, you give money away. You just give money away. People experience a disaster, you help. You give them money. You do it. You don't have to hang up a flag about it. You don't have to link it to your launch. And you sure as fucking shit do not manipulate your contributors or their audiences or your audience by making that the carrot. If you're going to give, just give because you're generous. If you want to tell the world you've given so that they think you are generous and know that you are, a humanitarian making a contribution, great. That's on you. Have fun with that. But if you're going to use your donation to people who are suffering as a way to motivate people to buy something they didn't want, or weren't interested enough in, now they're buying it because they want to make a donation. It's just, I had to kind of like talk my husband through it and say, am I crazy here? Because it sounds great. Like, oh, we're giving money to these people who are suffering right now. Really disguised as something good. Anyway, tell you that story because I was going to say, trust your gut on those things. Now, like I said, there are things that you can go, this is icky and I can live with it. Or this is icky and it's not the whole thing that's icky, it's just this execution. It's just how it is executed in this case that is icky. Or there could be things that you go, no, that's just icky and I will have no part in it. I've had a lot of moral dilemma with the fact that I built an entire business based on Meta. Meta has been good to me. Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, Instagram, Facebook ads, that has been good to me, good to me. And for the most part, however icky it gets at times, however icky Zuckerberg gets, or the company policies, even if it's not him, if it's someone else, it's still something I can wrap my head around it. I can make peace with it. I can go, yeah, but for all the good that it also does, I feel like there's a space where I can have discomfort and I can have living with it. And the two things can sit next to each other. The two things can coexist. I do not have to have one or the other. I do not have to say these two things are in contrast to each other, therefore they cannot exist together. I can comfortably have both of these things be true at the same time. For other things, I've gone, hell no, I will never implement that sales strategy. That is not going to work. And that doesn't mean I throw sales out of the window. It just means there's a certain execution of sales that I will never do. I was on a webinar the other day. My husband, it was literally, we were in bed on a Saturday morning, and Emil says to me, oh, there's this financial guy here in the Gold Coast that has got a webinar and it's starting in 4 minutes. And of course, I'm giggling. I'm like, oh, great, it's starting in 4 minutes. Yeah, it's an evergreen webinar. It's on a counter. It's his just in time webinar. Anyway, so Emil's watching the whole webinar. And then he says to me, I should watch the webinar. And so I watch the video on the landing page and I'm like, yeah, okay, this guy looks legit and sounds legit. And he's actually looking like he's got some legit marketing behind him. And then I start on the webinar and oh, he's a bro. He's more than a bro, right? So big bro, so bro. And I'm like, I'm sitting there going, all right, look past the bro and try to find the information, like, find the facts, find the information. It could be that there is really valuable information in here, and if I get past his style of speaking and get past his his inflated whatever's, everything is inflated, then perhaps I can learn something. And so I'm watching this whole webinar, 90 minutes of my life I will never get back, watching the whole webinar. And the guy is so full of shit. But he has maybe one or two good points, one or two things that are like, yeah, okay, I've just learned something new. I said to my husband afterwards, I switched it off and I said to him, I feel like I need to transcribe this guy's webinar so that I can read it, so that I can pull out the facts from the bullshit. Because when I read it, I can just delete the bullshit and just get to the, like, literally, here's how you do this, or this is the, do this instead of that. Like the facts. I just want the facts. But the fact that I had to sit through 90 minutes of listening to his nonsense uh, to get to, like, literally two or three good facts, just, I am not transcribing this guy's webinar to learn what he has, and I'm definitely not buying what he's selling, because there's no way I can sit through another minute of listening to this guy, because I do not trust him as far as I can throw him. And he probably has some good strategies. He's probably, I reckon by what he's showing us, he's doing really well, and I could probably learn a few things from this guy. but I don't trust him as far as I can throw him, and so I will not buy anything. I will find someone who has a different communication style who can teach me the same skills. Why do I tell you that story? Is just to say, trust your gut when something feels ethically off. There's no scarcity in who can teach us stuff. There's no scarcity in who we can support. There's no scarcity in whose launches we need to be part of. There's no scarcity in who our affiliates can be. There's no scarcity in any of that. We do not have to collaborate with people that give us the ick. So trust your gut on that. All right. When you are at a crossroads, when you are at a point where you need to make a decision and you have to ask yourself, is this a gut decision or is this a data decision? First thing you do is start gathering the data. If you haven't tracked the data already, if you work with me, you'll be tracking the data every week anyway. But start gathering the data. Just take a moment. You'll know when your gut is saying we need a change. You'll know when your gut is saying, red flag, or when your gut is saying, I'm burning out, I'm burning out, I'm burning out. Start gathering the data and then sit with your emotion. Try to put your finger on what is it that I'm feeling. And I'm gonna give you a clue here because I'm noticing something. You're either feeling resentful, you're mourning a loss, or you're just really, really overwhelmed. And I want to say that overwhelm is usually a symptom of mourning a loss or um, feeling resentful. It's usually one of those things. You're feeling resentful, you're mourning a loss, or it shows up as overwhelm, which is just it's just a symptom of a greater loss that you're mourning. Ask yourself, what is the best decision to make for future me? If I had to take better care of future me than I take of current me, what is the decision to make to take care of future me? And then make the decision that feels right and looks right on paper. And ask yourself, what would it look like if this decision turns out the way I want it to turn out? What is the outcome? I always knew that the break I was taking from the podcast was temporary. I thought it was going to be 6 months or a year. It turned into almost 2.5 years. 2.5 years? Yeah, turned into almost two years. I did not see that coming. And if you'd asked me if I had set a success metric for that decision, I would have said it's just getting a bit of my time back and feeling a bit less stressed. And a year after I ended the podcast, if you asked me, did I get some time back and did I feel less stressed? The answer was a categorical no. I was feeling even more stressed. And I had even less time because you know what? I was hustling harder to warm my audience up for our launches that I was doing back to back to back to try to keep my revenue alive because I didn't remember that my audience loves this podcast. My audience wants to hang out with me here, just like you are now. So I want you to remember this. Building your freedom empire is not about ignoring your intuition. It's about knowing when to listen to it and when to let the data lead the way. Your gut instincts are incredibly valuable, but they need to be balanced with solid business metrics. On Thursday's episode of the Launch Lounge, we are going to talk about coaching versus courses. Should you do both? Should you stick to just one? Should you add one or the other to your offer mix? I'm going to share with you the no BS guide to courses versus coaching. That's coming up this Thursday. I hope you'll join me, and I hope you have a lovely day. Take care. Bye.
If you want an easy way to build an audience that is ready to buy without wasting money or pulling your hair out trying to work the tech, then get the free 5-day Facebook and Instagram ads training now. In just 5 days, you'll learn how to set up high converting list building ads, navigate the ads manager like a pro, and master the exact formula through profitable ad spend. No fluff, no guesswork, just proven strategies that work. The best part? This comprehensive video training is completely free, and you'll get lifetime access to our brand new 2025 edition as soon as it launches. Ready to transform those scary ad campaigns into your most powerful lead generation tool? Head over to thelaunchlounge.com/getmyAdUp or click the link in the show notes. Don't wait. Your future customers are scrolling through their news feeds right now.